Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Braja Janarandana. Yashodanandana Braja Janarandana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Bhagavad Gita Ashtotar that Sri Srimad, His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Bhagavad Gita Ashtotar that Sri Srimad, His Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Okay, 29. Boy, what happened to August, huh? It's gone. Time is just speeding up.
Ready for the fall.
Yeah. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 29th day of August 2023 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in chapter 1, observing the armies on the battlefield of Kurukṣetra. Texts number 21 and 22 on page 44. Arjuna Vacha Senayor Ubayor Madhye Ratam Stapaya Mechuta Yabad Etan Riksheham Yodukaman Avastitan Kar Maya Sahayodhavyam Asmin Ranasamudhyame Arjuna Vacha Senayodabayor Madhye Ratam Stapayamechyuta Yavadetan Niriksheham Yodukaman Avastitan Karmaya Sahayodhavyam Asmin Ranasamudhyame Arjuna Vacha Senayodabayor Madhye Ratam Stapayamechyuta Yavadetan Niriksheham Yodukaman Avastitan Karmaya Sahayodhavyam Asmin Manasamudhyame. Madhavapuri, you want to try? Arjuna Vacha Senayor Ubayor Madhye Ratang Stapayamechyuta Yavadetan Niriksheham Yodukaman Avastitan Karmaya Sahayodhavyam Asmin Manasamudhyame. David. Arjuna Uvacha Senayor Ubayor Madhye Ratang Stapayamechyuta Yavadetan Niriksheham Yodukaman Avastitan Karmaya Sahayodhavyam Asmin Ranasamudhyame. Antonella. Arjuna Vacha Senayor Ubayor Madhye Ratam Stapayamechyuta Yavadetan Niriksheham Yodukaman Avastitan Karmaya Sahayodhavyam Asmin Manasamudhyame. Not yet? Okay. Anyone online?
Ruba, can I try?
Go ahead.
Arjuna Uvacha
Arjuna Vacha
Senayor Ubayor Madhye
Senayor Ubayor Madhye
Ratham Stapayamechyuta
Ratam Stapayamechyuta
Yavad Etan Niriksheham
Yavadetan Niriksheham
Yodukaman Avastitan
Yodukaman Avastitan
Karmaya Saha Yuvabuddha
Karmaya Sahayodhavyam
Asmin Jana Samuddayam
Asmin Manasamudhyame. Okay, I'll run through the synonyms. Arjuna Uvacha, Arjuna said, Senayor of the armies, Ubhayo, the two, Madhye, between, Ratam, the chariot, Stapaya, please keep, may, my, Achyuta, O infallible one, Yavat, as long as, Etan, all these, Nirikshe, may look upon, Aham I, Yodhu Kaman, desiring to fight, Avastitan, arrayed on the battlefield, Kai, with whom, Maya, by me, Saha, together, Yodhavyam, have to fight, Asmin, in this Rana, strife, Samudjame, in the attempt. Translation. Arjuna said, O infallible one, please draw my chariot between the two armies, so that I may see those present here who desire to fight and with whom I must contend in this great trial of arms. Purport. Although Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, out of his causeless mercy he was engaged in the service of his friend. He never fails in his affection for his devotees, and thus he is addressed herein as infallible. As charioteer, he had to carry out the orders of Arjuna, and since he did not hesitate to do so, he is addressed as infallible. Although he had accepted the position of a charioteer for his devotee, his supreme position was not challenged. In all circumstances, he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Rishikesha, the Lord of the total senses. The relationship between the Lord and his servitor is very sweet and transcendental. The servitor is always ready to render service to the Lord, and similarly, the Lord is always seeking an opportunity to render some service to his devotee. He takes greater pleasure in his pure devotees assuming the advantageous position of ordering him than he does in being the giver of orders. Since he is master, everyone is under his orders, and no one is above him to order him. But when he finds that a pure devotee is ordering him, he obtains transcendental pleasure, although he is the infallible master in all circumstances. As a pure devotee of the Lord, Arjuna had no desire to fight with his cousins and brothers, but he was forced to come onto the battlefield by the obstinacy of Duryodhana, who was never agreeable to any peaceful negotiation. Therefore, he was very anxious to see who the leading persons present on the battlefield were. Although there was no question of a peacemaking endeavor on the battlefield, he wanted to see them again and to see how much they were bent upon demanding an unwanted war. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So this is an interesting verse and purport, as they all are. But what I especially find fascinating is Prabhupada's exploration here of how the Lord also enjoys serving his devotee. Krishna has taken the subordinate position here, even though Arjuna knows he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he will show that on the battlefield. But this is the essence of bhakti rasa. Bhakti means a reciprocation of love. And when Krishna is exactly reciprocates, yeyatam apapadyante tam tataiva bhajamyaham, he says, as they surrender unto me, I worship them. Bhajamyaham, I reciprocate, you see, which is quite remarkable. Krishna doesn't need our service. I mean, he's infinite. But he is making himself available to receive our service for our own good, and that's a way of serving us. And that the fact that he empowered Srila Prabhupada to build this movement and this temple, which manifested in the mid-70s, and now just see how much benefit we can get from it. We have to unlock that door, which is a whole mystery. And I'm going to put this on time. Hey, Nelson, I'll do it. Oh, David, you watch me, then you'll be able to do it next time. No, Nelson, you can watch also. Okay. So here's this. So this is locked. Yeah. No one can get in or out. When this is. See? And that will allow you to look at it. And then that locks it. All right, we'll stand up.
One step at a time.
Okay. So this reciprocation is the essence of bhakti. Krishna has taken all this trouble to come to this world. Why would he come to this world? where millions of people don't even know him. He's got to deal with these demons and so much flack, you know. But he does it, as he states in the 4th chapter. Yadaya dahi dharmasya glana bhavati bharata abhyutanam adharmasya tadamanam sajamyaham. When there's an upsurge of irreligion and real religion has been eclipsed, then I advent myself. Or oftentimes he'll send an emissary. But the point is, he takes the trouble to have an intervention, you know, into the world, so that Dharma can be reestablished. Why? Because we need that. We can see what the world is like without real Dharma. It's going from bad to worse. There's just so much confusion. This idea of Varna Sankara is important. Varna Sankara means unwanted population, or population that's untrained, out of control, simply under the modes of nature, greed, lust, and so forth. And you can see what a disaster that can be. You have, you know, so many people who's simply they're criminals, or they're just self-destructive. They're ingesting all kinds of things that are just damaging them. You know, there's no training and cultivation of higher values in life, so people can advance. You know, so Krishna sees that, and it hurts him. It says, you know, because we're all his offspring, and we are, every single living entity is part and parcel of Krishna. He's the seed-giving father of all. So he has a concern, and he tries to help in this way, and gives us the opportunity of serving him, which is really the best thing that we can do. That's the idea, to reestablish that service, regain our divine qualities, because we're part and parcel of the divine, but because we're overwhelmed by the material energy, that's become eclipsed, and we're in the modes of nature, which, you know, we can see. So here is a perfect example of that. He's taken the subordinate role as the charioteer, and he's taking orders from Arjuna, even though Arjuna knows very well that he's the Supreme Lord. But it's all a great plan. The whole thing was his plan to reinstate Dharma in the person of Yudhishthira, Dharmaraj himself, the eldest Pandava, and to eradicate so many miscreants. But nobody dies. Anyone who was killed on that battlefield it's very auspicious, because Krishna is present there. So everyone benefits, even though their bodies change, you know. So that's what's explaining here. The Sena Yobi of Madhye comes up again and again. Within the no man's land, between the two armies, massive armies have been marshaled here. You know, thousands and thousands of elephants and chariots and horses and infantry, you know, all ready to fight. It's a very dramatic situation. And and Arjuna wants to see on the other side, and we'll see, he sees friends, relatives, you know. He sees his worshipable guru and Bhishma Dev, the grandfather figure. And suddenly he gets cold feet, because he's put into illusion by Krishna, so Bhagavad Gita could be spoken. We should always remember that Arjuna is an eternal friend of Krishna, but he's put into illusion, so that Krishna can speak the Bhagavad Gita for our benefit, and it can be recorded like that. So remember that. All right, if there's no discussion, we'll go on. Text 23. Yotsyamanam abhiksheham ya ete tra samagataha dhartarashtrasya durbudhir yudhe priya chikirshibaha. Arjuna continued to speak. Let me see those who have come here to fight, wishing to please the evil-minded son of Dhritarashtra. Purport. It was an open secret that Duryodhana, he's the evil-minded son spoken of. It was an open secret that Duryodhana wanted to usurp the kingdom of the Pandavas by evil plans, in collaboration with his father Dhritarashtra. Therefore, all persons who had joined the side of Duryodhana must have been birds of the same feather. Arjuna wanted to see them on the battlefield before the fight was begun, just to learn who they were. But he had no intention of proposing peace negotiations with them. It was also a fact that he wanted to see them to make an estimate of the strength which he had to face, although he was quite confident of victory because Krishna was sitting by his side. All right, I'm going to move over a little bit here. The camera. All right, let's go on. So now Sanjay. Now, just to recap, this whole scene, Sanjay and Dhritarashtra are sitting in Hastinapur, away from the battlefield, in the palace. But Sanjay has a mystic power. He can see and hear at a distance, given to him by Vyasadeva. So he's listening in, and he's watching and witnessing everything, and Dhritarashtra says, what happened, what's going on, you know. And so that's the scene. So suddenly now we hear from Sanjay. Sanjay uvacha evam mukto rishikesho gudakeshena bharata senayor ubhayor madhye stapayit bhavatottamam. Now before we go on, we're in the process of going through the Bhagavad Gita, myself and my editorial cohorts, and I'm hoping to change these midsts into between. The word midst is not the same as between. If you're in the midst of two armies, that means you expanded yourself and now you're in the middle of both armies. No, you're in between the two armies. So that's why I'm going to, as we go, you'll see midst and I'll be reading between. Sanjay said, O descendant of Bharata, having thus been addressed by Arjuna, Lord Krishna drew up the fine chariot between the two armies of both parties. Purport. In this verse, Arjuna is referred to as Gudakesha. Gudaka means sleep, and one who conquers sleep is called Gudakesha. Sleep also means ignorance. So Arjuna conquered both sleep and ignorance because of his friendship with Krishna. As a great devotee of Krishna, he could not forget Krishna even for a moment, because that is the nature of a devotee. Either in waking or in sleep, a devotee of the Lord can never be free from thinking of Krishna's name, form, qualities, and pastimes. Thus, a devotee of Krishna can conquer both sleep and ignorance simply by thinking of Krishna constantly. This is called Krishna consciousness, or samadhi. As Rishikesha, or the director of the senses and mind of every living entity, Krishna could understand Arjuna's purpose in placing the chariot in the midst of the armies. Thus he did so and spoke as follows. So before we go on, this name Rishikesh has been brought up, so it's worth emphasizing that just for a minute. Rishika means senses, Isha means Lord. So Krishna is the Lord of our senses, but in our rebellious state, in Maya, we don't know that, and so we use our senses for our own purposes, sense gratification, and that deepens our entanglement in the material world. But actually, when we use the senses to serve the purposes of the master of the senses, we become peaceful and happy. We get enlightenment. That's the whole idea. And that's why Krishna consciousness is a science. The first sense that's important to use is the tongue, or the voice, and the ear. Simply by hearing and then repeating, like the holy name, we do kirtan, that is the best use of the senses. And it's very purifying, because Krishna is there in the sound of his name. This is a mystical fact that is completely irrational. It's not something you can figure out. But it's part of the inconceivable power of the Lord that he can manifest through anything directly related to him, including the deity, the prasadam, the devotees, and especially the holy name. So when we use our senses to vibrate the holy name, to hear, in any of the services that we can do, now you're doing is sitting and hearing, the ear is engaged, hopefully, in the mind, then Krishna is present and he purifies, and he draws us to him and away from Maya. So this is the meaning of the word Rishikesh. When we're truly in devotional service, then we're acting in relation to Krishna with that understanding that he's the master of our senses. We're not supposed to use it just for sense gratification. That's detrimental to us. We don't hurt Krishna that way, but we prolong our sojourn in the material world to suffer birth, old age, disease, and death. So Prabhupada is emphasizing that name, and it's also there in the verses. Because Arjuna will not serve Krishna's purpose at first, and then the whole Bhagavad Gita is to disabuse him of his illusion. Okay, so now let's see what happens. This is Sanjay still speaking. Bhishma Drona Pramakatha. Sarvesham samahichitam Uvachaparta Pashyaitan Samavetan Kuruniti. In the presence of Bhishma, Drona, and all the other chieftains of the world, the Lord said, "Just behold, Partha, all the Kurus assembled here." Purport: as the supersoul of all living entities, Lord Krishna could understand what was going on in the mind of Arjuna. The use of the word Rishikesh in this connection indicates that he knew everything. And the word Partha, meaning the son of Pritha or Kunti, is also similarly significant in reference to Arjuna. As a friend, he, Krishna, wanted to inform Arjuna that because Arjuna was the son of Pritha, the sister of his own father Vasudeva, he had agreed to be the charioteer of Arjuna. Now, what did Krishna mean when he told Arjuna to behold the Kurus? Did Arjuna want to stop there and not fight? Krishna never expected such things from the son of his aunt, Pritha. The mind of Arjuna was thus predicted by the Lord in friendly joking. So this is where the spell is going to be cast now, and you'll see he doesn't want to fight, which is the foundation of the whole book. Tatra pasyat stithan partha pitrin atapitamahan acharyan matulan bratrin putran pautran sakins tata swasuran suridaschaiva senayor uvayorapi. There, Arjuna can see between on the other, amongst both armies. Yes, actually, within the midst of the armies. And this one's right. There, Arjuna could see within the midst of the armies of both parties. No, I'm sorry. This is defining where he is. There, Arjuna can see between the armies of both parties his fathers, grandfathers, teachers, maternal uncles, brothers, sons, grandsons, friends, and also his fathers-in-law and well-wishers. All right, you have to work on that one. Purport: on the battlefield, Arjuna could see all kinds of relatives. He could see persons like Bhurishrava, who were his father's contemporaries, grandfathers Bhishma and Somadatta, teachers like Dronacharya and Kripacharya, maternal uncles like Shalya and Shakuni, brothers like Duryodhana, sons like Lakshmana, friends like Ashwatthama, well-wishers like Kritavarma, etc. Okay, and then this last sentence has to be changed. Indeed, in both armies, so where were we? So the last sentence, indeed, in both armies, he could see they contained many of his friends. All right, so let's go on. Text 27. Tan samiksha sakaunteha sarvan bandhu navastitan kripaya pariyavishto Vishidan idamabravit. Page 48. Okay. When the son of Kunti, Arjuna, saw all these different grades of friends and relatives, he became overwhelmed with compassion and spoke thus. Now here it comes. This is setting up the whole book. Arjuna Vacha. Dristve mam swajanam Krishna. Yuyutsum samapastitam. Siddhanti mama gatrani. Mukamcha parishusyati. Arjuna said, "My dear Krishna, seeing my friends and relatives present before me in such a fighting spirit, I feel the limbs of my body quivering and my mouth drying up." Purport. Any man who has genuine devotion to the Lord has all the good qualities which are found in godly persons or in the demigods, whereas the non-devotee, however advanced he may be in material qualifications by education and culture, lacks in godly qualities. As such, Arjuna, just after seeing his kinsmen, friends, and relatives on the battlefield, was at once overwhelmed by compassion for them who had so decided to fight amongst themselves. As far as his soldiers were concerned, he was sympathetic from the beginning, but he felt compassion even for the soldiers of the opposite party, foreseeing their imminent death. And while he was so thinking, the limbs of his body began to quiver, and his mouth became dry. He was more or less astonished to see their fighting spirit. Practically the whole community, all blood relatives of Arjuna, had come to fight with him. This overwhelmed a kind devotee like Arjuna. Although it is not mentioned here, still one can easily imagine that not only were Arjuna's bodily limbs quivering and his mouth drying up, but he was also crying out of compassion. Such symptoms in Arjuna were not due to weakness, but to his soft-heartedness, a characteristic of a pure devotee of the Lord. It is said, therefore, Yasyasti bhakti bhagavadgita kinchana sarvaya gunais tatta samasate suraha harava bhaktasya kuto mahadguna manoratena satidhavato bahi. One who has unflinching devotion for the personality of Godhead has all the good qualities of the demigods. But one who is not a devotee of the Lord has only material qualifications that are of little value. This is because he is hovering on the mental plane and is certain to be attracted by the glaring material energy. Bhagavatam 5:18-12. So, now it happens. Arjuna suddenly gets cold feet. And you see what's going on. It was a, what do you say, internecine battle. It was like the Civil War, where you'd find sometimes in America, you had families on each side and split. So it's harder to fight in that way because there's not that kind of aura of anonymity on the other side. You know, this is your beloved teacher, there's my brother-in-law, and it is having this effect on Arjuna. Now, ultimately, this is illusion. And Arjuna and Krishna will immediately address this illusion when he starts teaching Arjuna in the next chapter, text 11. What it's based on is the bodily concept of life. And because, we say, well, this is very admirable of Arjuna. And Prabhupada is saying, yes, because he's a soft-hearted devotee and so forth. But in the overall scheme of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna has set this up, in order to help the world, the whole world, so that it would be ruled by the Yudhishthira. And we always have to remember the basic principle of Krishna consciousness, that nobody dies. Jayate mete vakadachan nayam bhutva bhavitavana bhuya ajo nitya shashvatoyam parano nahanyateha namani sharire. Prabhupada quoted this verse 1,000,000 times. For the soul, there is never birth nor death at any time. He has not come into being. New ones aren't coming into being now, and in the future no new ones will come into being. We're as eternal as Krishna is. Aja, unborn. Aja nitya shashvato parano, eternal, unborn, eternal, ever-existing, primeval. The soul is not slain when the body is slain. Now, you say, well, not everybody is slain, but in a way it is, by the force of time and by some disease. It acts like a weapon. It has the same effect. So this is a key verse in the Bhagavad Gita, and it's basically the theme of the second chapter, 20 verses on the soul. And it's meant to change our whole perspective of life. If all of us are eternal, that means we've had lives before. That's the whole idea. We have hundreds of thousands of lives that we had before. We didn't take up Krishna consciousness. We went through, became human beings, wasted it, went down again, and so forth. And so this is the real existential position of every living entity. And when you come to the human form of life, there is an opportunity to end this painful cycle of samsara. And we should take advantage of that opportunity. That's the foundational teaching of the Bhagavad Gita. And in order to do that, we have to transcend these bodily relations that sometimes it's painful. Just like sannyas. It's difficult, especially for the family. Prabhupada didn't want to take sannyas. His guru was coming to him in dreams, urging him to take sannyas. He was in his early 50s. He was writing, he was preaching, but he had a family, he had his business, he was doing both, you know. But he and also his godbrothers were saying, if you really want to preach, you have to renounce, you have to use full time, you have to like that. But he says in many lectures, I was horrified, you know. But at a certain point, he saw that it was necessary. As wrenching it is to one's, material attachments and whatever, Prabhupada wasn't attached, but the point is that he showed by example. But he took on that austerity. And he gives us a perfect example, Lord Chaitanya himself. God himself showed, he had his loving wife, Vishnu Priya, and his loving mother. He had all his friends there in Navadvip. He was preaching like anything. He would do a kirtan and thing. But for the welfare of the whole world, for the greater good, he renounced everything and became the ideal sannyasi and went all over India and preached and taught Rupa Goswami and all those things, for our ultimate benefit. So this is the consciousness of the pure devotee, is that whatever hesitancy I have, I have to, Krishna's the master of the senses, he's Rishikesh, and I'm going to go all out and do it. And Prabhupada started this movement on that basis. And he showed a perfect example, but even his students, they had to accept so many austerities and become detached from this, so many things, And the benefit is that Krishna from within, he gives you transcendental pleasure, and he gives you vairagya. See, in order to be, it's not just renouncing. There's a very important difference between renunciation and detachment. Renunciation, or tyaga, which will be explained in the 18th chapter also, means literally giving up. Literally giving something up. But you still may be very attached to it, right? Just like on the mundane plane, I got to lose weight. Well, not me, obviously, but, probably more than half the people in America thinking, yeah, I got to lose some weight. So therefore, I have to give up this, and this, and I have to, take on some exercise, whatever. Right? But it's not so easy. You're attached to eating this and eating that and eating so much. So that's a discipline. If you want the higher good, then you have to give up the lower thing. But the problem is on the material plane, the desire is still there. You can go off the wagon at any time, right? Because you're not getting the higher taste. But in Krishna consciousness, you can get vairagya, which is much more valuable than just renunciation. Vairagya means no more attachment. Renunciation means literally separating yourself. No, but that's all you can think about, the thing you just get. But in Krishna consciousness, you're thinking about Krishna and you're actually giving up the attachment. That's why in the second chapter there's this very important verse, 59 I think it is. Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehinaha rasabhajam rasopyasya padam drishva nivartate. So Vishaya are the object of the senses. Vishaya niraharas. If you don't consume the object of the senses, and we kind of even if you hear mundane music, you're kind of consuming it, right? You're the consumer. So that ahara means to consume or eat. So by not eating, by not consuming the object of the senses, then they turn away from you, meaning that you can give them up. You're separated. But deep inside, the desire is still there. But giving them up by experiencing a higher taste, you remain fixed in renunciation. You see, padam drishva is a shortcut word. It means seeing the Supreme, experiencing directly God, Krishna, all attractive Krishna. Then you can remain fixed in renunciation. And you never, being in this movement for a short time, whatever attraction you had to eating hamburgers and everything, out the window. It's just not there anymore for so many reasons. Oh, how could I have done that to all the cows? I didn't know, just that very idea. So that's healthy. But someone has said, no, I'm not going to eat meat anymore. because it's bad for my body, But still, you're tempted. So that's the idea of real renunciation. But Arjuna now is in the throes of bodily identification, and because of all that, he won't be able to fight right away. That's the idea. All right, let's go on. Well, just one. This verse is often quoted. Prabhupada quotes this about how by developing devotional service, you develop so many other good qualities. Like compassion, self-control, all of these different things. Bhagavadgita, sarva gunais tattva samasa, all good qualities develop. But without bhakti, there cannot be any great qualities. They seem to be great, but they're tinged with mundane motivation, with someone. And this is very mano-rata. We just had the Ratha Yatra. Remember what Ratha means? The chariot, right? So mana is the mind, the chariot of the mind. Or as we say, the train of thought, right? It just take you out the window. They go one thing before you know, you're not thinking of Krishna anymore. So that's the mind is very obstinate, is very restless, and it will take you here and there unless you learn to control it. But if the mind can be filled with all attractive name, form, qualities, and pastimes of Krishna, then it becomes naturally attracted. That's the idea. And the mind you're able to control the mind easily. Text 29. Vepatus chasharire me romaharchas chajayate gandivam shrunksate hastat tvakchaiva padidahyate. Arjun, can you turn this off? Thanks. Arjun speaks, my whole body is trembling, my hair is standing on end, my bow Gandiva is slipping from my hand, and my skin is burning. Purport. There are two kinds of trembling of the body and two kinds of standings of the hair on end. Such phenomena occur either in great spiritual ecstasy or out of great fear under material conditions. There is no fear in transcendental realization. Arjun's symptoms in this situation are out of material fear, namely loss of life. This is evident, not his own life, but the others. This is evident from other symptoms also. He became so impatient that his famous bow Gandiva was slipping from his hands, and because his heart was burning within him, he was feeling a burning sensation of the skin. All these are due to material conception of life. So I heard along the way, one of these years, that Arjuna at one point said in his strict martial spirit that anyone who even suggests that I put my Gandiva bow down, then I'm going to fight with him, because it's like, you don't do that, But here he's dropping the bow, showing that he's not in his martial spirit. And he will say, next chapter, text 7, which is a key verse, Karpa Nibosho Upahata Svabhava, this miserly weakness that's overcome me has stolen away my real nature as a Kshatriya. Because the Kshatriya does not drop the bow. That's the last thing he does, So this is, he's paralyzed by this bodily relationship and all these things going on. And he goes on speaking about his situation. Nacha shaknomya vastatum brahmativa chame manaha nimittani cha pashyami viparitani keshava. I am now unable to stand here any longer. I am forgetting myself, and my mind is reeling. I see only causes of misfortune, O Krishna, killer of the Keshi demon. Purport. Due to his impatience, Arjuna was unable to stay on the battlefield, and he was forgetting himself on account of this weakness of his mind. Excessive attachment for material things puts a man in such a bewildering condition of existence. Bhayam dvatiyabhinaveshatak syat, Bhagavatam 11.237. Such fearfulness and loss of mental equilibrium take place in persons who are too affected by material conditions. Arjuna envisioned only painful reverses in the battlefield. He would not be happy even by gaining victory over the foe. The words nimittani viparitani are significant. When a man sees only frustration in his expectations, he thinks, why am I here? Everyone is interested in himself and his own welfare. No one is interested in the Supreme Self. Arjuna is showing ignorance of his real self-interest by Krishna's will. let's say it like this. By Krishna's will, Arjuna is showing ignorance of his real self-interest. One's real self-interest lies in Vishnu, or Krishna. The conditioned soul forgets this, and therefore suffers material pains. Arjuna thought that his victory in the battle would only be a cause of lamentation for him. Now, you probably don't recognize this, but Prabhupada is referring to a verse by Prahlad Maharaj. Oh, just see. What's your name, Boo? Madhavananda. I thought I recognized you. Haribo. Yes, very good.
They do not know that their real self-interest
Is Vishnu. Yes, and Prabhupada continues that in the next purport. Yeah, this is Prahlad speaking to his father, and he's referred, the they there is from the previous verse, Matirna Krishna Padatak Svatova Nito Padyeta Griha Vatana Madanta Gobevashatam Tamisram Punak Punaschar Vitacharvananam, the famous chewing the chewed verse. So he's telling his father, don't worry, you'll never be Krishna conscious. Matirna Krishna, you can't put your mind on Krishna, because you're too determined to enjoy materialistic household life, and therefore your senses are completely out of control, and you're chewing the chewed. And a person like you, nate vadu sva, they don't understand that the real goal of their life, sva-arta, very important word. Arta means something valuable. Sva-arta means what's really valuable to the soul, the goal of the soul, so to speak. But the materialists, they have no idea that Vishnu is that goal. So the mind is always on the externals, instead of the soul. And durashaya means they're trying to achieve something that's impossible to achieve. Happiness and peace in this material world. It's an illusion, it's a phantasmagoria. And because of that, andaya tandaya upaniyamana, it's the blind leading the blind, because you're encouraged in these illusions by other illusion people. The people who run the media, the schools, you raise your parents. And everybody remains firmly bound up in the modes of nature. So that's Prabhupada's whole emphasis. Yes, the goal of life is Krishna or Vishnu, and here's how to attain it, this mystical process. Yeah?
How does that relate to dharma, artha, kama, moksha?
How does what relate to?
Artha, you were...
Oh yes, the word artha. Yeah, well, artha could be different things, and in that context, it often, as we know, it means religion or religiosity, economic development. Artha often means money because it's valuable. But that's not sva-artha. That's not the goal of the soul, you see. So there's a beautiful verse in the 11th canon right after the verse defining Lord Chaitanya as the Yuga avatar. Krishna Varnam Tvisha Krishnam Sango Pangasta Parshadam Yagya Sanktana Prayajanti Sumedasa. That in this age, Krishna appears with a golden complexion, right? Tvisha Krishnam. But he's always chanting the name Krishna, or he belongs to the Varna of Krishna. There's two meanings. He's Krishna himself. Sango Panga, and he has his associates and his other circle of associates, and his weapons and his limbs that he comes with, and those who are intelligent will worship him by Sankirtan. And therefore, Kaling Sabaji Antyaya Guna Gyasara Bhaginaha Yatta Sankirtane Vaira Sarva Svarto Ebilabhyate. He's Svarta again. Those who are intelligent worship this Kali Yuga. Not every other Kali Yuga, there's 1,000 of them in every day of Brahma. But this particular one, because Lord Chaitanya comes. And in this age, just by Sankirtan, congregational chanting of the holy name of God, one can achieve all of one's svartas, sarva svarta bilabhite. A very illuminating verse.
The difference between artha and svarta.
Yeah, sva-arta, my own, the goal of the soul. So that's what Prabhupada is speaking of here. Okay, it's getting a little late. I didn't read through the whole purport, did I?
You did the 29.
The 29? We're on 29.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're on 30. All right. Boy. All right. Let's finish up with this text 31 in purport. Yeah, that's right. Right. We read the purport, but it continues. The theme continues in the next purport. Nacha shreyo napashyami hatva svajanam ahabe nakangshe vijayam Krishna natarajang sukhanicha. I do not see how any good can come from killing my own kinsmen in this battle, nor can I, my dear Krishna, desire any subsequent victory, kingdom, or happiness. Purport. Without knowing that one's self-interest is in Vishnu or Krishna, conditioned souls are attracted by bodily relationships, hoping to be happy in such situations. In such a blind conception of life, they forget even the causes of material happiness. Arjuna appears to have even forgotten the moral codes for a Kshatriya. It is said that two kinds of men, namely the Kshatriya who dies on the battlefront and the person in the renounced order of life who is absolutely devoted to spiritual culture, are eligible to enter into the sun globe, which is so powerful and dazzling. Arjuna is reluctant even to kill his enemies, let alone his relatives. He thinks that by killing his kinsmen, there would be no happiness in his life, and therefore he is not willing to fight, just as a person who does not feel hunger is not inclined to cook. He has now decided to go into the forest and live a secluded life in frustration. But as a Kshatriya, he requires a kingdom for his subsistence because the Kshatriyas cannot engage themselves in any other occupation. But Arjuna has no kingdom. Arjuna's sole opportunity for gaining a kingdom lies in the fighting with his cousins and brothers and reclaiming the kingdom inherited from his father, which he does not like to do. Therefore, he considers himself fit to go to the forest to live a secluded life of frustration. So you see his dilemma. Even on the material side, he's in a quandary here. So this is all setting it up, and he's going to now give this whole arguments, and some of it's based on the Vedas, and but at the end of it all, he's in illusion. He's been covered over, and Krishna will begin to enlighten him as soon as he surrenders as a disciple. Now he's in the friendly mode. He can go back and forth arguing, but then he sees he's not getting anywhere, so he says, "Karpan," he says, "Shishyasteham shadiman tam tapanam." I am your shishya now, not your friend. Please instruct me. And he has to accept what the Guru says, especially since he's Krishna. So it's very dramatic, but these are all, setting up everything, and it's going to give us a very great insight into Arjuna's mentality, and really, it's like a great drama coming up, and the stage is this chariot between the two armies, and the audience is millions and millions of soldiers, plus we also are there. All right, we have time for one little poem. Okay. So this one is about fearlessness, which we need in this age. Anghak sanghadatakilang sakadadiyade vasakalalokasya tadaniti vatamana jaladin jayajitagham mangalang hare nama. I think I did this one last night, but it's okay. When the moon is invisible, withered to nil, and the sun is long gone from the sky, then an ocean of darkness envelops this world, and the timorous fear they might die. But that thick pall of gloom is at once swept away when the first signs of sunrise appear, and the dawning of day gives assurance to all that in truth there is nothing to fear. In a similar way, when illusion holds sway, and a soul has forgotten his Lord, then the darkness of ignorance covers his heart, sin and suffering are his reward. But as soon as he says Krishna's name even once, in a manner that doesn't offend, then his ignorance flees like the darkness at dawn, and his sin and his suffering end. So there's nothing to fear, for the sun of the name has appeared with his powers divine. In your heart, may that sun, benedictive for all, become fixed and eternally shine. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari Bol. So now, we will make ready for the arti.